Just let me know that that's coming through okay.
Perfect.
All right, so as Jennifer said, we're going to be talking about innovating your contact center with AI and automation. And the way I'd like to kind of start this is by, and Rowan mentioned this actually in his session just then, is to kind of look back at sort of how contact centers have changed kind of over the years, right? And if we look at the ways in particular that consumers are seeking to engage with businesses, and so if we go back, let's go back 20 years even, the idea of a contact center, as Ron rightly pointed out, everything was about the phone. We were all talking about phone calls. The hope was that you would get a live agent, and the big thing about them was that they were almost entirely reactive, as in if I'm the consumer or I'm the customer and I have a problem, then the expectation is on me to kind of reach out and contact the organization in sort of a total reactive way. We blast forward sort of 10 years and we saw the advent of mobile devices. We started to see also the emergence of decent speech recognition technology, and this enabled sort of self-service interfaces, the press or say type models, in a few words, how can I help you, for the very large organizations, started to go down this front. But it was still largely direct, inbound and reactive. But jump forward to the present day, and we're now talking about a world where almost all of the customers that we deal with have some sort of experience, day-to-day experience with a smart device, whether that be a sort of a speaker within their house, or in my house, like 10 speakers within my house, or it's a smart assistant on their phone, or something like that. And the expectation has been that conversational type dialogues are becoming the norm. It's kind of strange to me that I can, just speak out in my living room and speak to a smart speaker and get all sorts of information. Then I ring a Fortune 50 sort of institution and I'm stuck back with a touch tone type interface from 20 years earlier. The other thing about this is that these devices are persistent. They're always there. And then the nature of the contact centers has started to change, or has been changing, into more of a proactive contact center, because it's not just about consuming the incoming data. It's about using the data within your organization to be proactive, reaching out to callers or customers, so that if an event happens within the organization that they need to be aware of, we make them aware of it, as opposed to putting the onus on them to talk to us. So what this has meant over the last few years is that the nature of the agent job within the contact center has changed. Okay, so the idea here is that as the role, as Rowan pointed out, the role of humans will shift in the contact center as AI becomes more prevalent, and the idea is that humans will focus on higher value activities within the contact center and allow those sort of, let's call it, base load interactions that Rowan was referring to be handled by self-service automation in whatever form people want to engage with it in. Now, this concept of human agents in a contact center working in tandem with artificial intelligence in the contact center is something that we call at Five9 collaborative intelligence. And in fact, many others in the industry are starting to latch onto the term collaborative intelligence as well. If we now look at sort of the role of sort of supervisors and administrators and people that are actually making buying decisions around these sorts of technologies, and we look at some recent surveying that we've done through partnership and also our own surveying of customers, we can see that we look at the challenges facing contact centers, that 70% of contact center managers agreed that automating more customer support tasks would help improve their relationships and loyalty. However, having said that, the barriers that were stopping them to implementing these sorts of solutions, you can see here on the screen. There were the cost. These things have been notoriously expensive, and as I mentioned earlier, the biggest organizations have been able to afford them, but for the vast majority of companies that have been beyond, the ROI hasn't worked out because they're just too prohibitively expensive. A very strong reliance on professional services. There's not a lot of support for that kind of an engagement these days. The idea that I'm buying something from a technology company, but it's a complete black box to me, does not sit well with buyers. And then third, almost related to the second one, the time to develop these things is incredibly, in often cases, it's incredibly long. So what this rolls up into, and at least the way that Five9 looks at this, is that we need better tooling in order to allow these sorts of companies to benefit from these technologies. And if we again survey our customers, 75% of IT decision makers agreed that tools that would allow them to build their own applications are important to their automation strategies. And we're going to get into some of that tooling in this session, but actually more in the next session when there's actually some demonstrations of some of these tools in action. So Five9's perspective is then that to succeed, we believe that you need an AI-powered workforce with collaborative intelligence. And I'm going to dig into a little bit by, in terms of what I mean by that. And now Rowan did touch on this, but there's a sort of a common misconception that as you bring artificial intelligence into an environment, you do away with the people that were formerly doing those jobs. And the reality is we don't actually see that. What we do see is we see the role of people in those companies changing. So as Rowan pointed out, humans are creative, they're empathetic, they can exercise judgment and leadership. These things are impossible to program into artificial intelligence today, whereas machines, on the other hand, are super scalable. I can spin them up instantaneously. I can shut them down if I need to. Incredibly accurate and incredibly consistent. Now, the challenge has been making them consistently good consumer experiences as opposed to consistently bad. Now, when we talk about humans and machines working together, a phrase you often see is this notion of hybrid activities, where the idea is that humans are harnessing the capabilities of those machines, whether by allowing them to have more time to work on particular types of activities, or even having the machines sort of listen into the conversations and then allow essentially enhance the capabilities of the agent by using sort of technologies like agent assist technologies to sort of pop information to that agent screen. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And the idea, of course, being that the machines give the humans superpowers, and sort of agent assist is a really good example of doing that. And as I said before, we refer to this back and forth between these sort of two different groups as the notion of collaborative intelligence. So how does that actually manifest itself in the real world? Well, let's start by actually looking at a traditional contact center. Now, Five9's been in the contact center space for more than 20 years, and when we started, a contact center would look very much like this. We would have here on the left-hand side, we would have all of the different types of customer contact. 20 years ago, it was pretty much all voice, but now we have email, we have chat, we have social, web, and so on. And the task was to take all of that customer care workload, pass that through your contact center, and match it to agents in that contact center in the best way that you could. And it was a tough problem. You don't know on any particular day how many calls or how many chats you're going to get, and so you need to invest in technologies that allow you to sort of better match that supply with demand. And so in addition to selling, obviously the contact center platform itself, we sold other technologies like workforce optimization, reporting and analytics, workforce management, and so on. But it's all been around sort of labor optimization. If we fast forward to today, the Five9 platform looks quite different, okay? We still obviously have all of the necessary parts for contact center, such as the agent desktop, the supervisor consoles, the integrations to CRM, and so on. But we have all these other layers within the Five9 platform itself. And so, I encourage our customers and partners to talk about Five9 as a platform on which you now build things, as opposed to a contact center solution, because it is much more than that today. And the focus for us in the product side over the last couple of years has been very much in this layer here, which is shown here in green, called AI Hub. But essentially what it is it's an AI layer embedded within the Five9 platform itself that allows you to leverage things like shared components on the platform. So you can build, for example, models that you can use across your automation strategies, as well as your agent assist strategies. And it also allows you to power things like our agent assist experience and virtual agent experience. And so what that means is that the contact center, labor force here on the right-hand side now looks kind of different. You still have your human agents, of course, but you have them complemented with intelligent virtual agents here, shown here in green, which represent, the true automation. as well as agent assist technology, which allows these human agents to benefit from the capabilities of these, these AI software models as well. So the idea here is to come up with a strategy to cost effectively respond to the increasing quantity and complexity of inquiries by leveraging this technology. And again, when we go out and survey our customers over the last couple of years, and we ask, how is the nature of the types of inquiries you're getting in your contact center changing? Invariably, the answer is everything's getting more, there's more channels, and it's getting more complex. The types of things we're needing to do are becoming more complex. Okay, so here is the strategy. It's visualized here as a pyramid. Rowan mentioned this earlier, but the idea is that we take those very repetitive tasks that are in the contact center, and we use virtual agent technology to automate those away. That then frees up your human agents to work on the lower volume but higher value activities inside a contact center. And it doesn't really matter which contact center we look at, the customer care workload invariably looks like this. There are some things that you want to handle really, really well, that you absolutely want people to be working on, but there are lots and lots of things that are distracting them that you also need to handle, but they're relatively low value to the organization. So they are the candidates for automation. Now, value could be expressed in terms of the size of the circle, but the other thing to keep in mind is that time on the call is often expressed in terms of the size of the circle as well. A lot of these high volume repetitive tasks, they're actually relatively quite quick. So they kind of look almost like noise within your contact center. But the ones where you're spending lots of time, or you should be spending lots of time, you don't want to confuse them with any of these lower value activities. So spend the time where you need to have it spent to get the outcomes that you need within your contact center. So let's actually look now at sort of a particular sort of ROI on these sort of high volume repetitive tasks. So here's a really classic example that we see all the time. It's payment processing. So I'll need to pay my credit card, pay my bill with a credit card on the phone or something like that. Here's a typical scenario where we have 2,000 incoming calls per hour with a handle time of 120 seconds and an IVA cost typically costing about 15% of a fully loaded agent. So let's have a look at that. 2,000 incoming calls with an AHT of 120 seconds. The number of agents you would need if you do the modeling on this to handle that customer care workload is 82 agents. I'm using North American numbers here, but the labor cost per month would then work out for a fully loaded cost of about $273,000. You obviously need to buy the software that is powering the contact center itself. That will cost you about $16,000. So the total monthly cost to the buyer is around $290,000. If we take that same customer care workload, the same payment processing example, and we use a virtual agent technology to do it, you still need 82 agents, but in this case, they're virtual, so it's all software. So there is no labor cost. The software on a per virtual agent basis is more expensive, so that goes up. But if you add all these columns together, the total monthly cost to the consumer is only $37,000. So you're talking about cutting service costs by 8 times. And it's not often within industry that you can say to somebody, how would you like to cut that sort of cost to serve by a factor of 8? It's really quite remarkable how this technology can work. So I'm now going to jump into a very recent case study. This is COVID clinic. In this case, it's a North American case study, but we see similar throughout the world. And the idea here is that in the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw unprecedented volumes on healthcare providers. Okay, so in this case, we were talking about an organization where the amount of call traffic coming in was increasing several times every single month. So like 3x growth per month. And what that meant is that they had to hire continuously. And even if they did hire continuously, they couldn't meet the supply and demand curve. It was just getting away from them. And so the idea here is that they needed to be able to scale to meet the customer demand. And they added intelligent virtual agents into the solutions that they were buying from Five9. What that meant for them, it was that they were able to scale to meet that demand pretty much instantaneously. I think they ramped up over a period of about 10 days, so it was a very quick ramp. In the first year, they saved about $2 million by using Five9 IVA, and they were able to pour this back into their business, invest in other areas of customer care, and particularly in those higher value activities that they wanted to do as well within their contact center. So a really interesting, enterprise size. It was sub 500 agents, but still a quite sizable a case study, and probably comparable to many of your own businesses. All right, now I'm going to jump into the actual technologies themselves, but this is going to be very, very quick, because later on in the next session, you're actually going to see some of these technologies in action. And in particular, I think we're going to be seeing Studio 7, which is our intelligent virtual agent platform. So one of the questions I often get from partners and prospects and existing customers, how do I think about an intelligent virtual agent? Like, how do I think about a bot? Like, should I think about it like something that I pay, like an API call? Should I think about it like an employee in my company? And the answer with Five9 is it's the latter. You think about an intelligent virtual agent in much the same way as you would think about adding one new agent into your contact center. Okay, so just like adding a human agent, virtual agents have skills. In the case of a virtual agent, though, the skills represent the underlying technologies that the virtual agent is able to work on. For example, what languages does it speak? What systems does it know how to engage with? And so on. In much the same way with a human agent, you give them things to do. We call these things tasks. In Studio, you create tasks to basically automate any type of interaction that you can think of. And there's a few examples here on the screen, from looking up orders to making appointments and resetting passwords. Really good examples of these very high frequency but ultimately low value activities that are sort of bogging down the day-to-day operation of your contact center. What you don't see in here is conversations and discussions. Those are the things that you want your human agents to be working on. And then much the same way as adding somebody into your contact center, you pay for an IVA in the same way. You pay for it on a per IVA per month basis. The difference being here, as I showed it on the previous slide, the cost of an IVA is a relatively small fraction of the cost of a fully loaded human agent. Somewhere in the sort of the 15 to 20% range is basically what we typically see. And then there's obviously a big difference, is they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They never take a break. They're all software. Now, the second major technology area that we offer within the Five9 platform is Agent Assist technology. And the idea is that in Agent Assist, you're not saying the interaction doesn't go to an agent. In fact, the interaction still goes to a human agent, but that human agent has capabilities in terms of things popping up on the screen in front of them, based on the fact that the artificial intelligence is listening to the conversation while the agent is talking to the customer, and providing all sorts of things to help that agent in their day-to-day job. So a few examples of things like real-time guidance and checklists and so on. I'm going to actually show you a live screenshot on the next slide. But the idea here is that you're giving your agents sort of like superpowers. You are increasing things like or reducing, I should say, your handle time. You're radically reducing your onboarding time. As Rowan mentioned before, if you have high churn in your contact center, training of agents is incredibly difficult, because you're investing in agents. Agents are staying maybe 1 year, maybe 6 months, and then they're leaving, and you've got to repeat that process continuously. Agent Assist is a fantastic way of getting new agents up to speed with your organization as quickly as possible, because if they don't know the answer to something, then it's likely that the Agent Assist will know the answer and will help that agent and coach that agent through that interaction. So what is it kind of, or actually before I get to that, let's actually talk about a case study here in the US. This is TrueConnect. In the case of TrueConnect, they saw a 30-second reduction in overall handle time. Now, it wasn't just a handle time of during the call. They actually saved a lot of their time in the post-call wrap-up or after-call work, because they were using Agent Assist to, for example, summarize and diarize the conversation and push that into their CRM. So you can use this technology in different ways. It's not just necessarily during the live call itself. So expecting 7.5% yearly savings, and in year 2 somewhere between 10% and 20% savings in the contact center. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is the Agent Assist screen. On the left-hand side here in the red box, this is the diarized transcript. So as we're having a conversation in the contact center, this is what is appearing on the agent screen. They can see the words that the customer is saying. They can see the words that they are saying. It's all diarized for them, so they don't actually have to type anything. They have the ability to sort of get a summarization of that interaction. This is quite a tricky problem that we are working on. It's essentially a beta capability right now, but it's becoming very sought after as people look to decrease the amount of after call work that agents need to do. Perhaps the most popular part of agent assist technology is what we call real-time guidance cards. So this is where we detect that you're having a conversation about a particular thing. So here, for example, maybe it's a payment, and we pop what we call a card to the screen that says, hey, make sure you do this, or here's the information you might need to help the customer with this interaction. And then the newest capability being added in Agent Assist is this box here at the top called the AI checklist. And the idea of the AI checklist is that this allows you to, as it suggests, pop a checklist to the screen that is automatically ticked off as you work your way through some sort of complex interaction. Now, this is really good in sort of high compliance environments where you have to go through a series of steps, and you don't necessarily want to just rely on the agent doing that. You want to actually have the AI listen, making sure those steps were adhered to, and just letting the agent know at a glance whether or not there's something they have to do. For example, here we haven't confirmed the phone number, for example. And you can put both positive and negative things in there. So if they say something they shouldn't say, you can also point that out for them so that the next call that they take, that's reinforced, and it's unlikely that they'll kind of want to say that again. So that's just a really quick overview of the Agent Assist capability. Now, the final one I want to talk about today is more in this AI hub layer that I was talking about before, where we are embedding artificial intelligence throughout the Five9 platform. And one of those capabilities is referred to as the AI Model Manager. Now, a model is, most people don't know what an AI model is or an NLP model is, but if I was to have a guess, I would say that models are going to be one of the things we start talking about in contact centers more and more often, and everyone in a few years is going to know what an AI model in a contact center is. If you're familiar with contact centers at all, you'll say, what kind of AI modeling are you doing, or NLP modeling are you doing? Essentially, what a model is, it is the brain that is listening to the conversation and attaching meaning to that conversation. So models revolve around the concept of determining intents, what callers are actually getting to, like what are they actually trying to achieve, what's the intent of the call. And it's not just the intent of the overall call, but all of the intents throughout the call, and mapping that through to a model that allows you to understand what's going on. Now, building a model has historically been a really hard thing to do. You have to be like a data scientist, you have to really understand linguistics and things like this. And what we have been working on internally at Five9 is to allow pretty much any contact center manager or administrator to build their own model on the Five9 platform, and then use that model anywhere on the platform that they want. So, for example, I could use an AI model to get better conversational insights into what's happening. I could use an AI model to actually completely automate something through an intelligent virtual agent, or I could use an AI model to run my Agent Assist technology, which is that sort of technology that's listening in on the call. Now, it's not available right now, but it is going to be available later this year. It is essentially in use with customers this quarter, but we'll be rolling out over the remainder of the year, and it's just really an exciting area that you'll all be able to experience around the development of AI models in a contact center environment. Okay, so how to get started. If anything I've talked about today interests you, there's lots of ways to kind of get started with Five9. One of the more interesting ways, I guess, is to see if an IVA is good for your business, is to actually ring one. So we actually have at Five9 developed our own IVA. It's called the New Hire IVA. The idea of the New Hire IVA is it really just showcases the types of technologies available within the Five9 platform. And here he is. You can ring him, you can talk to him. He has a lifelike voice. In fact, the voice we're using there, we're going to be talking about more in the next session where we demonstrate our new virtual voiceover technology. And you can ask questions like, hey, what are your qualifications? How are IVAs deployed? What is a digital workforce? what kind of things can you do with an IVA and so on. And if you want to try it, just ring this number. This is a UK number. You can ring it here and interact with it. And it's conversational. It'll send you SMSs. It'll wait for you if you need to wait for you. It'll connect you to an agent. It'll transfer you to different demos. Even has a demonstration of voice biometric technology in it as well. So you can try out that capability on the platform also. Okay, so just to recap, consumers want to access services in new types of ways. It's really changing quite quickly. Agent turnover, as Rowan pointed out, is a huge problem for the industry. It's getting harder to hire and retain staff. And so one of the ways you can improve that problem is to let your agents work on higher value work. And the way you do that is through a digital workforce. And with 5.9, you can deploy a digital workforce quickly and easily. And with that, I think we will go to questions or perhaps hand back to Jennifer.